Hidden within forgotten manuscripts lies a key to the universe's greatest secrets. This key is not a single truth, but a method, a lost art known as the Ars Combinatoria, the ancient art of combination. For centuries, mystics and philosophers believed that by systematically combining core symbols and ideas, they could unlock divine knowledge and manipulate the very fabric of reality. By the end of our journey, you will understand how this esoteric practice secretly shaped our modern world, from the birth of computing to the way we think about creativity itself. We will uncover why this powerful art was nearly lost to history and discover how its principles can still be used to solve complex problems and spark profound personal insights. What forgotten power might you unlock by learning to combine the basic elements of your own world? At its heart, the Ars Combinatoria is a map for navigating the architecture of thought itself. It is the art of combination, a profound system built on a simple but radical premise. The universe, in all its complexity, is constructed from a limited set of fundamental elements. These could be the letters of a divine alphabet, the basic concepts of the mind, or the geometric symbols found in nature. The magic does not lie in the elements themselves, but in the infinite ways they can be combined. This was not seen as mere shuffling, but as a sacred act of creation. By systematically exploring every possible linkage between these core units, the practitioner could generate all possible thoughts, discover all possible truths, and even glimpse the mind of the Creator. This makes the Ars Combinatoria far more than a philosophical curiosity. It was a direct bridge between human reason and cosmic order, a tool for divine revelation. It sits squarely within the Western esoteric tradition, sharing a kinship with alchemy's search for a prima materia and Kabbalah's permutations of sacred letters. Yet its true legacy is startlingly modern. This quest to formalize thought into a language of symbols and then manipulate those symbols through combinatorial rules is the very foundation of modern computing and symbolic logic. The same principles that guided a mystic seeking enlightenment through letter combinations now power the algorithms that shape our digital world. Long before computers, the human mind was already building systems to decode the cosmos. One of the most profound of these systems emerged within the mystical tradition of Kabbalah. Here, the Hebrew alphabet was not merely a tool for writing. It was seen as the very substance from which God constructed reality. Each letter was a vessel of immense power, and through two primary arts, gematria and tzeruf, practitioners sought to unlock its secrets. Gematria was the art of numerical equivalence, where every letter held a specific number. By calculating the numerical value of words, mystics could find hidden connections between seemingly unrelated concepts, revealing a hidden layer of divine mathematics woven into the Torah. Tzeruf, however, was the pure art of combination, the systematic permutation of sacred letters. A practitioner would meditate on a divine name, like the Tetragrammaton, and mentally rearrange its letters in every possible sequence. This was not a random exercise. It was a disciplined, spiritual technology believed to alter consciousness, to forge a direct link with the divine, and to ultimately rearrange the very fabric of existence. The goal was to participate in the ongoing act of creation, using the same combinatorial tools as the Creator. This powerful idea, that truth could be mechanically discovered through the combination of symbols, would soon escape the confines of mystical circles and find a new revolutionary form. In the 13th century, a remarkable figure named Ramon Llull, a philosopher from Majorca, had a vision. He sought a universal method for proving the truths of the Christian faith to Muslims and Jews, a logical engine for interfaith dialogue. Inspired by these combinatorial traditions, he created the first formal system of the Ars Combinatoria. His tool was deceptively simple, a set of concentric paper circles called volvels. Each wheel was inscribed with fundamental concepts, the basic building blocks of all knowledge, like goodness, greatness, and eternity. By manually rotating these discs, one could generate thousands of propositional statements, exploring every possible relationship between these divine attributes. Llull's spinning wheels were a physical machine for generating thought, a proto-computer made of paper and faith. He believed that by systematically combining these core ideas, anyone could logically arrive at irrefutable theological truths, revealing the underlying unity of all knowledge and all faiths through a sacred mechanical process. Llull's grand vision took physical form in a set of beautifully simple paper machines. Picture a series of concentric circles, each one able to rotate independently. On these wheels, he inscribed his foundational principles, which he called the dignities of God. These were concepts like goodness, greatness, eternity, power, and wisdom. He believed these were not just abstract ideas, but the very attributes through which God interacted with creation, the fundamental components of all reality. By spinning these paper discs, one against the other, a person could align different dignities to form logical statements. For example, the outer wheel might align goodness with the inner wheel's eternity, generating the proposition, "The goodness of God is eternal." This mechanical process allowed for the systematic exploration of every possible relationship between these core ideas. It was a method designed to leave no stone unturned, to uncover every facet of divine truth through exhaustive combination. His ultimate goal was as ambitious as it was revolutionary. He wanted to use this combinatorial machine to prove the tenets of Christianity to Muslim and Jewish scholars through pure, undeniable logic. Llull dreamed of a universal language of thought, one that transcended cultural and linguistic barriers. He believed that if anyone, from any faith, engaged with this system, they would be led inexorably to the same fundamental truths. The spinning wheels were not just a teaching tool, they were an engine of interfaith dialogue, a logical device meant to replace sword and sermon with the quiet, irrefutable turning of paper discs. This was the birth of a radical idea, that deep spiritual truth could be discovered mechanically. But what happens when this spiritual machine falls into the hands of purely logical minds? The journey of the Ars Combinatoria was about to take a dramatic and secular turn, moving from the monastery to the heart of the scientific revolution. Llull's paper engine for divine truth did not end with him. Centuries later, during the great intellectual awakening of the Renaissance, his combinatorial art was rediscovered and radically transformed. It was no longer seen merely as a logical proof for religious debate, but as a master key for unlocking the hidden architecture of the cosmos itself. Renaissance thinkers looked at the world and saw a vast, interconnected web of life, a universe pulsating with hidden sympathies and secret correspondences between the stars above and the earth below. The Ars Combinatoria became the essential tool for mapping these invisible connections. A key figure in this revival was the enigmatic German magician and philosopher, Heinrich Cornelius Agrippa von Nettesheim. In his monumental work, Occult Philosophy, Agrippa built a vast combinatorial system that categorized everything in creation. He laid out elaborate lists of plants, stones, planets, numbers, and angels, all meticulously linked together. For Agrippa, to know which herb corresponded to which planet, and which angel governed that planet, was to possess real power. By combining these elements according to the art, a magus could theoretically draw down celestial influences, healing the sick or altering fate. This was the Ars Combinatoria reborn as a practical technology of magic, a way to actively manipulate the hidden threads binding the universe. At the same time in Italy, the brilliant philosopher Pico della Mirandola performed another daring fusion. He boldly merged the Christian combinatorial framework of Ramon Llull with the ancient Hebrew mysteries of the Kabbalah. Pico believed that the combinatorial permutations of sacred Hebrew letters, the Tzaraf of the Kabbalists, were the ultimate expression of Llull's art. He saw both systems as different paths to the same summit, a universal science that could reveal the divine mind. This syncretic vision supercharged the Ars Combinatoria, imbuing it with the profound spiritual power of an ancient tradition. It was no longer just about generating logical statements, but about participating in the living language of God, a language written in the very structure of reality through symbolic correspondences. The art of combination had become a bridge between earth and heaven, a method for the human soul to ascend through the layers of creation by understanding and combining its fundamental symbols. This grand mystical vision of a knowable and manipulable universe, however, was about to face its greatest challenge, a new philosophy that valued cold, hard facts over hidden sympathies. Yet this bridge between magic and science was about to be crossed by a man whose vision was too vast for his time. Enter Giordano Bruno, a former Dominican friar whose fiery intellect would push the art of combination to its most audacious and dangerous extremes. Bruno took Llull's logical wheels and Agrippa's cosmic correspondences and fused them with a third ancient discipline, the classical art of memory. This was not about simple memorization. The art of memory trained the mind to remember vast amounts of information by placing vivid, symbolic images within the rooms of an imaginary palace. Bruno saw something far grander in this technique. He believed these mental palaces and their symbolic inhabitants could be built using the combinatorial principles of the Ars Combinatoria. He designed incredibly complex systems of wheels, each inscribed with images of gods, animals, and celestial beings. A practitioner would memorize these rotating sets of symbols and their infinite combinations, constructing a dynamic, internal model of the entire universe within their own mind. This was not a memory tool for recalling speeches or texts. It was a magical and spiritual technology. By mentally navigating this combinatorial labyrinth of symbols, the practitioner sought to align their own consciousness with the animating forces of the cosmos, to grasp the divine mind itself, and in doing so, gain the power to influence reality. Bruno's aim was nothing less than becoming a co-creator with God, using the disciplined combination of internal symbols to work magic upon the external world. His radical ideas, which challenged the very core of church doctrine, made him powerful enemies. For his belief in an infinite universe and his magical use of combinatorial arts, Giordano Bruno was tried for heresy. He was burned at the stake in the year 1600, a tragic testament to the perceived danger of a mind that dared to combine symbols in an attempt to touch the divine. The same combinatorial logic that mapped the heavens also promised to unlock the secrets of the earth. In the fiery crucibles of the alchemists, alchemy was far more than a primitive attempt at chemistry. It was a complete spiritual philosophy, and the Ars Combinatoria provided its intellectual framework. Alchemists believed that all matter was composed of a few primal elements, often symbolized as sulfur, mercury, and salt. These were not the substances we know today, but philosophical principles representing spirit, soul, and body. The fabled transmutation of lead into gold was not seen as a simple trick, but as a profound process of purification and recombination. They theorized that by breaking down base metals to their essential qualities, and then systematically recombining those qualities in a new, perfect proportion, they could create gold. This was a physical application of combinatorial art, a methodical exploration of every possible state of matter to arrive at its most perfect and stable form. But the laboratory work was always a mirror for an inner, spiritual process. The alchemist themselves was the true subject of the experiment. The base metal represented the impure, unrefined soul, burdened with vice and ignorance. The fire of the furnace was the heat of spiritual discipline and introspection, breaking down the old self. The careful recombination of elements symbolized the conscious assembly of a new, purified being, where virtues were combined into a golden, enlightened whole. In this way, the alchemist used the Ars Combinatoria twice over, first as a theoretical guide for manipulating physical substances, and second as a practical map for the transmutation of their own consciousness. The quest for the philosopher's stone was the ultimate combinatorial problem, seeking the one master symbol, the universal catalyst, that could perfect all combinations, both in matter and in spirit. This profound link between inner and outer transformation reveals the art's deepest purpose, a purpose that would soon be stripped away as the world rushed toward a new age of reason. From the ashes of Bruno's execution, the combinatorial art retreated into the shadows, finding new life not in public squares but in secret chambers. The 17th century saw the rise of mysterious brotherhoods, chief among them the Rosicrucians, whose anonymous manifestos electrified Europe with promises of a coming intellectual and spiritual reformation. These documents spoke of an invisible college of enlightened adepts who possessed a profound secret knowledge, a universal science for healing the sick, understanding nature, and transforming society. At the very core of this promised wisdom was the Ars Combinatoria, meticulously encoded within their symbols and rituals. The Rosicrucian manifestos themselves were combinatorial puzzles, layered with allegories, numerical codes, and geometric diagrams like the Mona's hieroglyphica, a single symbol designed to contain all alchemical and astrological knowledge. To read these texts was not to passively receive information. It was to engage in an active process of decoding, of mentally combining the symbols to unlock deeper meanings reserved for the worthy initiate. This was knowledge protected not by a lock and key, but by its very structure, a structure built on the ancient art of combination. This tradition of encoding wisdom was perfected by the Freemasons. While publicly presenting themselves as a fraternal order, their private rituals were a living theater of the combinatorial art. The entire Masonic lodge is a symbolic construct, a combinatorial grid where architectural elements, tools, and ceremonial steps are not merely decorative. The square and compass are not just tools. They are fundamental symbols representing morality and spiritual boundaries. Their combination in different positions conveys specific philosophical teachings. The progression of an initiate through degrees like entered apprentice, fellowcraft, and master mason is a deliberate, combinatorial journey. At each stage, new symbols are introduced and combined with those already learned, building a layered understanding of cosmic truth. The floor of the lodge, with its black and white checkered pattern, represents the dualistic nature of the world, and the initiate's path across it is a lesson in navigating and reconciling these opposites through a symbolic, combinatorial dance. Why go to such elaborate lengths? Why hide profound truths behind layers of symbol and ritual? The answer lies in the transformative power of the process itself. Simply being told a secret does not change a person, but the act of striving, of piecing together clues and mentally combining symbols to arrive at a personal revelation, forges a profound internal shift. The secret society used the Ars Combinatoria as a spiritual filter. It ensured that only those with the patience, intuition, and dedication to engage in the combinatorial work would ever access the deeper mysteries. The truth was not handed over, it was earned through an active participation in the art of revelation. This created a living tradition where knowledge was not static information, but a dynamic, experiential process. The ultimate secret these societies guarded was not a single fact, but a method, the very method of using combination to unlock the latent potential within the human mind. This protective, almost secretive, approach to wielding symbolic power raises a crucial question. What happens when this guarded art is unleashed into the open, subjected to the cold, hard light of reason and logic? The mystical engine of combination was about to be stripped of its soul and reborn as something entirely new, something we would all come to recognize. That protective, secretive approach to symbolic power could not last forever. The 17th century's hunger for clear, public knowledge demanded that the art of combination be brought into the light and stripped of its mystical skin. This task fell to one of history's greatest minds, the German polymath Gottfried Wilhelm Leibniz. He saw in the ancient Ars Combinatoria not a tool for magic, but the blueprint for a new age of reason. Leibniz dreamed of a world without misunderstanding, where all intellectual disputes could be settled not by force or faith, but by calm, undeniable calculation. His grand vision was called the Characteristica Universalis, a universal symbolic language. In this system, every fundamental idea in the universe would be assigned its own unique symbol or number. Complex thoughts would then simply become combinations of these symbols, much like a complex mathematical equation is built from basic numbers and operators. Imagine if the concept of justice had a symbol. and the concept of mercy had another. A debate about a legal ruling could then be transformed into a logical operation, combining these symbols to see if the result was valid. This was the ultimate evolution of Llull's spinning paper discs, transformed into a precise, formal language for all human thought. But Leibniz did not stop there. He paired this universal language with a calculus ratiocinator, a framework of logical rules for manipulating these symbols. He envisioned scholars, and eventually machines, that could take these symbolic statements and process them mechanically to discover new truths or reveal hidden contradictions. This was no longer about glimpsing the mind of God. It was about building a thinking engine. In this breathtaking leap, the sacred art of combination, born in mystical meditation and alchemical fires, became the direct progenitor of binary logic and computer programming. Leibniz himself was a pioneer of binary arithmetic, the language of ones and zeros that underpins all modern computing. His universal language of symbols and his calculus for their combination are the conceptual ancestors of every algorithm that now powers our digital world. The mystical quest to combine sacred letters had finally given birth to the cold, flawless logic of the machine. Yet in this triumphant translation from magic to mathematics, something profound was lost. The art was no longer a path for personal transformation, but a tool for impersonal calculation. The soul of the Ars Combinatoria had been extracted, leaving behind a skeleton of pure reason. This is where the Ars Combinatoria transforms from a historical curiosity into a living, breathing key for your own inner world. The same principles that once built symbolic engines and philosophical systems can become a deeply personal spiritual practice. You do not need paper wheels or complex diagrams to begin. Start with a simple set of symbols you feel drawn to, perhaps the 4 classical elements of earth, air, fire, and water. Each one represents a core aspect of existence. Earth is stability and the body, air is intellect and communication, fire is passion and will, and water is emotion and intuition. Now take a personal challenge you are facing, a problem that feels stuck. Hold that problem in your mind, and then consciously combine 2 of these elemental forces as a potential solution. What would it look like to apply the firm, grounding energy of earth to the flowing, emotional nature of water? This combination might suggest creating a stable emotional foundation, perhaps through a new daily routine that provides comfort and security. Then, try combining air and fire. The intellect of air can give direction to the raw power of fire, suggesting a plan of action fueled by passionate conviction. You are not just thinking about the problem. You are using symbolic combination to generate entirely new perspectives and potential solutions from within. You can work with more complex systems, like the tarot. Think of the tarot deck as a complete combinatorial set, a library of 78 fundamental archetypes. A powerful exercise is to draw 3 cards at random, not to predict a fixed future, but to engage in a combinatorial dialogue. Lay out the magician, the tower, and the star. Do not just read their individual meanings. Ask yourself, how does the focused will of the magician interact with the sudden upheaval of the tower? What new hope, represented by the star, is born from that specific combination of force and collapse? You are using the cards as prompts for a deep, internal exploration, forcing your mind to weave a narrative that connects disparate symbols. This act of weaving is the art itself. It trains your consciousness to find connections where none were obvious, to build bridges of meaning across the chasms of confusion. For a more advanced practice, you can work with planetary symbols. Assign the 7 classical planets to different areas of your life or aspects of your psyche. Mercury for your communication, Venus for your relationships, Mars for your ambition. Then, create intentional combinations. If you need to resolve a conflict with a loved one, you might ritually combine the gentle, harmonizing energy of Venus with the clear, articulate power of Mercury. You could meditate on their symbols merging, or write their names together in a specific pattern, focusing your intention on creating a conversation that is both loving and truthful. This is not superstition. It is a disciplined use of symbolism to program your own subconscious, to align your inner state with a desired outcome. The Ars Combinatoria becomes a spiritual technology for self-programming, a way to consciously rearrange the building blocks of your own perception and emotional landscape. You become the operator of your own inner universe, spinning the volvels of your mind to generate new states of being. This ancient art, which once sought to map the mind of God, reveals its most immediate power when turned inward, offering a dynamic and endlessly creative path to self-discovery and profound personal change. These fundamental building blocks of reality needed a language, and that language was written in symbolic alphabets and sacred geometry. Think of an alphabet not as a tool for writing mundane messages, but as a set of cosmic keys. The ancient Hebrew alphabet is the classic example, where each of the 22 letters is a vessel of immense power, a channel for a specific divine energy. The letter Aleph is not just a sound, it represents the primordial unity of all creation, the silent breath before the universe began. The letter Bet symbolizes the house, the container of that divine energy in the physical world. A mystic did not merely spell words with these letters. They were combining forces of creation, weaving together different aspects of God's nature to produce a specific spiritual effect. This principle extends far beyond Hebrew. The runic alphabets of Northern Europe operated on a similar logic. Each rune, like Fehu for wealth or Uraz for primal strength, was not just a letter but a storehouse of a specific, archetypal power. A rune master carving a bind rune was practicing a form of Ars Combinatoria, fusing the energies of individual runes into a new, more potent symbolic entity designed to protect, to heal, or to empower. These alphabets were the original data sets, the basic code that practitioners believed could be recombined to reprogram reality itself. But what about the visual architecture of the cosmos? This is where sacred geometry enters the stage. If symbolic alphabets provided the vocabulary, sacred geometry provided the syntax, the underlying grammatical structure of creation. The most fundamental of these shapes is the circle, a symbol of unity, wholeness, and the divine source. From this single point, the universe unfolds through a precise, combinatorial dance of geometry. The seed of life, a pattern of 7 interlocking circles, is seen as the blueprint for all existence. It is not a static image, but a snapshot of creation's first moment, a visual representation of the divine breath moving outwards and patterning itself. By combining this basic pattern with itself, more complex structures emerge. The flower of life, a vast grid of interconnected circles, contains the templates for everything from the molecular bonds in your body to the orbital paths of planets. And from the flower of life, one can derive Metatron's cube, a structure that holds within its lines all 5 platonic solids, the geometric shapes that form the building blocks of the physical world. The tetrahedron for fire, the cube for earth, the octahedron for air, the icosahedron for water, and the dodecahedron for the spirit. The practitioner of the combinatorial arts would meditate on these shapes, tracing their lines mentally, moving from the simple circle to the complex cube, understanding that each step was a combinatorial act. They were navigating the very scaffolding of reality, learning how the simple, through infinite combination, gives birth to the complex and magnificent. These symbols were never meant to be merely admired. They were active maps. By internalizing the seed of life, and then mentally building it out into the flower of life, and then into Metatron's cube, a mystic was not just thinking about creation. They were reenacting it within their own consciousness, using sacred geometry as a combinatorial ladder to ascend back toward the source. This profound interplay between alphabet and geometry reveals a universe built on a logic that is both beautifully simple and infinitely complex, a system where every part contains the whole, and every combination reveals a new facet of the divine. A tarot deck is a perfect combinatorial engine, a portable universe of 78 symbols designed for endless recombination. Each card, from the fool's innocent beginning to the world's final synthesis, represents a fundamental archetype, a core piece of the human experience. These are the letters of a symbolic alphabet, The magician is pure will and resourcefulness. The high priestess is hidden intuition. The emperor is structure and authority. By themselves, their meanings are profound but static. The true magic, the true art of the Ars Combinatoria, ignites when these symbols are laid out in a spread and combined. A simple 3-card spread of past, present, and future is not just a sequence of isolated meanings. It is a sentence, a narrative built from the combinatorial relationship between the cards. Imagine the 10 of Swords, a card of painful betrayal and an ending, appears in the past position. In the present sits the 8 of Wands, a card of swift movement and new messages. The combination tells a story not of 2 separate events, but of a direct consequence. The painful ending of the 10 of Swords created the necessary space for the rapid, forward-moving energy of the 8 of Wands to arrive. The story is born from the combination itself. This process scales into incredible complexity with larger spreads like the Celtic cross, where 10 cards interact in a web of positional meanings. The card in the position of your fears might be the Tower, symbolizing sudden upheaval. But if the card representing the final outcome is the Star, a symbol of hope and healing, the combination radically reframes the entire reading. It suggests that the very thing you fear, the dramatic collapse, is the necessary pathway to the hope you seek. The machine of the deck has generated a profound insight by combining symbols of chaos and peace. This is not fortune-telling in a fatalistic sense. It is a dynamic form of divination, which means to uncover the divine, to reveal what is hidden. The current brings their question, their life energy, to the table. The random shuffle and the combinatorial layout of the cards acts as a mirror, reflecting back the hidden patterns, the subconscious forces, and the potential trajectories already at play within their situation. The tarot deck, therefore, is a Lullian Valvel for the soul. It is a paper machine we hold in our hands, using the ancient art of symbolic combination to generate not theological proofs, but deeply personal revelations, one spread at a time. Your personal astrological chart is a living document of the Ars Combinatoria in action. It takes a handful of core elements and weaves them into a portrait of breathtaking individuality. The fundamental symbols are few: the planets, the 12 zodiac signs, and the 12 houses. Yet their possible combinations are as limitless as the human soul itself. A skilled astrologer does not simply list that you have Mars in Aries or Venus in Libra. The true art lies in the synthesis, in seeing how these placements interact. Mars, the planet of assertion and drive, expresses its raw energy one way in the bold, pioneering sign of Aries, but place that same Mars in the careful, diplomatic sign of Libra, and its expression transforms into a drive for justice and a need to fight for partnership. This is the first layer of combination, the planet fused with its zodiacal costume. Then, the astrologer adds the house. A planet and sign combination gains its specific theater of operation based on the house it occupies. Mars in Aries in the 10th house of career points toward a person who charges ahead as a leader or entrepreneur. That same Mars in Aries placed in the 4th house of home and family might manifest as someone who fiercely defends their home or constantly initiates home improvement projects. The core energy is similar, but the combinatorial context of the house directs its flow into an entirely different area of life. The final dynamic layer is the aspect, the geometric angles planets form with each other in the sky. A trine, a harmonious 120-degree angle, allows the energies of 2 planets to flow together effortlessly. A square, a tense 90-degree angle, creates friction and challenge, forcing growth through conflict. Imagine a chart where the expansive, optimistic planet Jupiter is in a tight, square aspect to the restrictive, disciplined planet Saturn. This is not just Jupiter and Saturn sitting in isolation. Their combination creates a lifelong internal dialogue between the desire for growth and the awareness of limits, a push and pull that defines a person's relationship with risk, responsibility, and ambition. The astrologer's genius is in reading this entire combinatorial sentence at once. They see the noun of the planet, the adjective of the sign, the location of the house, and the verb of the aspect, all woven together into a single, coherent story. Your birth chart is a unique computation, a celestial formula generated at the moment of your first breath, using the ancient combinatorial engine of the cosmos to define the singular potential of your life's journey. This ancient combinatorial engine of the stars finds a startling parallel in the Far East, within the pages of the I Ching, the Book of Changes. For over 3,000 years, this Chinese classic has offered a method for navigating life's uncertainties, and at its heart lies a system of pure binary logic. The I Ching is built from 64 hexagrams, 6-line figures that are each a unique combination of two simple elements, a solid line representing yang, and a broken line representing yin. These are the ones and zeros of an ancient world. To generate a hexagram, one does not simply open the book. The process is a ritual of combinatorial divination, traditionally involving the careful sorting of 50 yarrow stalks or the tossing of 3 coins. Each toss generates a single line, starting from the bottom and building upwards, creating one of the 64 possible 6-line combinations. This is not random chance, it is a sacred technology. The current focuses their mind on a pressing life question, and through this ritualized mechanical process, the seemingly random combination of solid and broken lines is believed to mirror the hidden patterns of the cosmos at that precise moment. The resulting hexagram is not a fixed prediction, but a symbolic snapshot of the dynamic forces in play, a combinatorial key for unlocking profound insight into their situation. The I Ching's power rests entirely on this exhaustive structure of binary combinations, a complete map of all possible states of change, from the creative vigor of the first hexagram to the unfinished work of the 64th. Centuries later, the German philosopher Gottfried Wilhelm Leibniz, who dreamed of a universal language of symbols, encountered the I Ching through Jesuit missionaries. He was electrified. He recognized in the solid and broken lines a perfect binary system, a visual representation of the ones and zeros he was pioneering in his own work on symbolic logic. For Leibniz, this was a stunning confirmation that the fundamental structure of thought and reality could be reduced to a combinatorial system of dualities. The same binary framework that guided Chinese sages in their spiritual consultations was, in his eyes, the very foundation for a new calculus of reason. The I Ching's ancient art of combining lines directly inspired his vision for a thinking machine, forging an unbroken chain from the oracular temples of the past to the birth of modern computing. The very code that now powers our digital world whispers the ancient language of yin and yang, a testament to the enduring power of combination. So what happened to this grand art of cosmic connection? The great engine of combination, which once promised to unite heaven and earth, slowly fell silent. Its decline was not a single event, but a gradual fading, pushed to the margins by 3 powerful forces. The first was the relentless rise of empirical science. In the 17th and 18th centuries, a new philosophy took hold, championed by thinkers like Francis Bacon and Isaac Newton. Their motto was to weigh and measure. Truth was no longer found in ancient books or symbolic correspondences, but in direct observation, repeatable experiment, and hard data. The scientific revolution demanded proof that could be seen and touched in a laboratory. How could you measure the correspondence between a planet and a specific herb? How could you prove that rotating paper wheels revealed divine truths? The mystical claims of the Ars Combinatoria could not withstand this new, rigorous scrutiny. It was dismissed as unscientific speculation, a relic of a more superstitious age. The universe was no longer a web of secret sympathies, but a vast, impersonal machine governed by mathematical laws. There was no room in this new world for an art that sought to manipulate reality by combining symbols. The second force was far more dangerous, the persistent association of combinatorial magic with heresy and the occult. The shadow of Giordano Bruno's fiery execution loomed large. Any system that claimed to give humans direct access to divine power, bypassing the established church, was viewed with deep suspicion and outright hostility. The Ars Combinatoria's deep ties to Kabbalah, alchemy, and ritual magic painted a target on its back. As religious and political institutions sought to consolidate their authority, these esoteric practices were systematically suppressed. To be a combinatorial magician was to risk being labeled a heretic, a witch, or a subversive. This forced the art underground, into the hands of secret societies who protected it, but also hid it from the broader intellectual world. The final, and perhaps most profound reason for its decline, was its own inherent complexity. The Ars Combinatoria is fundamentally an abstract and demanding discipline. It requires the mind to hold multiple layers of symbolic meaning simultaneously, to think in patterns and systems rather than simple cause and effect. For the average person, even an educated one, it is far easier to accept a scientific fact or a religious dogma than to embark on the lifelong labor of building internal combinatorial engines. The art became the domain of specialists, obscure curios studied by a handful of historians and philosophers, while the world moved on to more immediate and practical pursuits. It was not so much destroyed as it was abandoned, a beautiful but complicated instrument that nobody remembered how to play. The map of the universe had been redrawn, and the old symbolic charts were filed away, labeled not as truth, but as mythology. Yet, even as it faded from public view, the core logic of combination had already escaped, finding a new and more acceptable home in the most unlikely of places. This forgotten art of symbolic connection resurfaced in a most unexpected place, the quiet office of a Swiss psychiatrist. Carl Jung, the pioneering explorer of the human psyche, independently arrived at a modern psychological framework that mirrors the ancient Ars Combinatoria in stunning detail. Jung proposed the existence of a collective unconscious, a deep, shared layer of the human mind that is not filled with personal memories, but with universal, inherited patterns he called archetypes. These archetypes are the fundamental symbols of the soul, the psychological equivalent of Llull's dignities or the Kabbalah's letters. The wise old man, the great mother, the trickster, these are not just characters, they are the basic building blocks of our inner world, the psychic elements that combine in infinite ways to shape our dreams, our stories, and our very personalities. Your personal journey is a unique combinatorial story woven from these universal threads. Jung then observed a mysterious phenomenon in the lives of his patients, which he termed synchronicity. This is the experience of a meaningful coincidence, and a causal connecting principle. Imagine you are grappling with a difficult decision about your career, deeply contemplating the archetype of the hero and its call to adventure. That same afternoon, you stumble upon a forgotten book about mythological journeys. Then a friend calls to tell you an unrelated story about someone who changed their life by taking a risk, and you see a specific symbol repeated on a billboard. According to Jung, this is not random chance. It is the universe itself engaging in a form of Ars Combinatoria. The external world and your internal psyche are not separate. In a state of synchronicity, they combine, arranging events in a pattern that carries profound personal meaning. The universe, or the collective unconscious, is using the world as its Volvel, spinning events into a meaningful statement just for you. But Jung did not leave this as a passive observation. He developed a powerful method called active imagination, a direct psychological technique for practicing the art of combination consciously. This is a disciplined dialogue with the contents of your own unconscious. You might close your eyes and invite an image to arise, perhaps a shadowy figure at a crossroads. Instead of just observing it, you actively engage it. You ask it a question, you allow it to respond. You might then find a child archetype appearing, offering a gift. You are mentally combining these inner symbols, the shadow and the child, allowing them to interact and generate a new narrative, a new understanding of the conflict they represent. This is not daydreaming. It is a sacred technology of the self, using the combinatorial process to forge a connection between your conscious ego and the vast, symbolic world within. You become the operator of your own psychic machine, deliberately combining archetypes to heal divisions and uncover hidden truths. In Jung's work, the ancient quest to map the mind of God became a modern quest to map the human soul, using the very same combinatorial principles. The sacred art of combination did not vanish. It simply found a new language. The mystical quest to generate all possible truths from a finite set of symbols has reemerged in the most powerful force of our time, the digital realm. At the heart of every computer, every smartphone, and every AI lies the ultimate combinatorial engine, built on a foundation of ones and zeros. These binary digits, or bits, are the modern world's primal elements, the digital equivalent of the Hebrew letters or the alchemical principles. They are the barest atoms of information, and their power exists only in combination. A single bit is silent, a solitary note, but string 8 bits together into a byte, and you can represent any letter of the alphabet. Combine millions of bytes, and you can encode the complete works of Shakespeare, a symphony, or a photograph of a distant galaxy. This is the Ars Combinatoria stripped of its mystical skin and rewired with silicon, a system where infinite complexity arises from the systematic permutation of 2 simple states. The spinning paper volvels of Ramon Llull have been replaced by microscopic logic gates, spinning bits at the speed of light. The magician's quest to combine planetary symbols and divine names to influence reality has become the programmer's act of writing code, a series of logical commands that combine bits to create stunning virtual worlds, connect billions of people, and automate global systems. The intention has shifted from divine revelation to data processing, but the underlying architecture, the core belief that reality can be modeled and manipulated through symbolic combination, remains astonishingly unchanged. This digital resurrection reaches its zenith with algorithms and artificial intelligence. An algorithm is simply a formalized set of combinatorial rules, a recipe for processing information. A search engine algorithm, for instance, constantly combines your query with its indexed data points, ranking and recombining results to generate the most relevant answer. But it is in neural networks and deep learning that we see the art's most profound modern expression. These AI systems are not programmed with explicit rules. Instead, they are given vast datasets, millions of data points which are the raw symbols of our world. The network's architecture, with its layers of artificial neurons, then performs a monumental combinatorial exploration. It tests trillions of connections between these data points, strengthening pathways that lead to correct answers and weakening those that do not. It is learning through a process of exhaustive, hyper-fast combination. When an AI generates a new piece of music or a novel image, it is not creating from a void. It is recombining the patterns it has discovered within the data it was trained on, producing a new arrangement of the fundamental elements it has absorbed. This is a direct parallel to the mystic who believed that by combining all sacred letters, they could generate every possible divine name and thus every possible state of being. The AI, through its combinatorial power, generates what we perceive as new knowledge, or at least a convincing semblance of it. We are witnessing the Ars Combinatoria operating at a scale and speed that its ancient practitioners could never have conceived, raising a profound question about the nature of creativity and consciousness itself. If the systematic combination of symbols can produce such sophisticated outputs, where does the line lie between mechanical process and genuine insight? The art of combination has not just returned, it has become the invisible architect of our modern world, and we are only beginning to understand its implications. A modern painter does not need a brush to channel the spirit of the Ars Combinatoria. They need a prompt. Generative artificial intelligence represents the most explicit and widespread revival of this ancient art, a living laboratory where algorithms perform combinatorial magic on a scale that would have stunned the mystics of old. Take an AI image generator like DALL-E. Its entire operation is a perfect digital echo of the old practices. The AI has been trained on a colossal dataset of images and their accompanying text descriptions, absorbing a near-infinite library of visual symbols, styles, and concepts. These are its fundamental elements, its equivalent of Llull's dignities or the letters of a sacred alphabet. When you give it a prompt, you are not commanding a machine. You are initiating a combinatorial ritual. You are asking the system to take the symbol for a cat, the symbol for the moon, the artistic style of Van Gogh, and the concept of wearing a waistcoat, and then perform a sacred Tizarov, a permutation that fuses these disparate symbols into a single novel creation. The result is not a copy, but a genuine combination, an image that has never existed before, born from the systematic exploration of possible linkages within its vast symbolic universe. The same process unfolds with large language models like GPT. These systems have ingested the combined textual output of humanity, from epic poems to technical manuals. Their foundational elements are words, phrases, and grammatical structures. When you ask one to write a poem in the style of Emily Dickinson about the experience of using a smartphone, it performs a breathtaking combinatorial act. It locates the stylistic patterns of Dickinson, the thematic patterns of technological alienation, and the linguistic patterns of poetic meter, and it weaves them together into a new whole. The AI is a grand volvelle of language, spinning its internal wheels of syntax and semantics to generate every possible sentence, every possible idea, constrained only by the initial prompt. This is where the true magic and the true mystery of the modern Ars Combinatoria reveals itself. Just as a Kabbalist might discover an unexpected divine name through letter permutation, these systems constantly produce emergent properties, outputs that are surprising, insightful, or even unsettling. An artist might input a simple prompt and receive an image that reveals a symbolic connection they had never consciously considered. A visual synchronicity generated by the machine's blind, combinatorial exploration. The AI becomes an oracle, not because it possesses consciousness, but because its exhaustive process of combination can mirror the hidden patterns and connections that already lie buried within the collective data of our culture. In this light, the programmer and the digital artist are the new magi. They are not burning incense or chanting divine names, but they are crafting spells in the form of code and prompts, using the combinatorial engine of the algorithm to summon forth new realities from the latent space of all possible images and all possible texts. They are practicing a form of technological divination, probing the digital unconscious to see what strange and beautiful combinations will emerge. This raises a profound question that brings us full circle. If the art of combination is now in the hands of everyone with an internet connection, what new realities are we, collectively, about to summon into being? Grab a piece of paper and a pen, because the time has come to build your own engine of revelation. This is not a theoretical exercise, but a practical ritual, a way to physically engage with the ancient art of combination. Start by cutting a circle from a sheet of paper or cardstock. This circle is your universe, your blank slate. Now, think about the core themes currently active in your life. Choose 7 to 10 fundamental concepts, the dignities of your personal world. These could be work, love, health, creativity, fear, growth, family, or any other symbols that hold significant weight for you. Write each of these words evenly spaced around the outer edge of your paper circle. This is your first wheel, your list of primary elements. Next, create a second, smaller circle, and write the same list of words around its edge. Place this smaller wheel on top of the larger one and push a brass fastener through the center, so the smaller wheel can spin freely over the larger one. You have just constructed a modern volvelle, a personal combinatorial machine. Now for the magic. Take a deep breath and focus your mind on a single, open-ended question you are grappling with, perhaps a creative block or a difficult decision. Silently hold that question in your thoughts, then give the top wheel a spin. When it stops, look at which concept on the top wheel aligns with which concept on the bottom wheel. You might see love aligned with challenge or creativity paired with fear. Do not dismiss the pairing as random. Instead, treat it as a sacred combination, a sentence generated just for you by your own symbolic engine. Meditate on this pairing for a few minutes. If love and challenge have come together, ask yourself, how is love currently presenting itself as a challenge in my life? How can I meet that challenge with more love? If creativity and fear are linked, explore what your creativity is afraid of, or how fear itself might be a strange, untapped creative force. The power of this simple device is its ability to bypass your linear, logical mind and force unexpected connections. It makes the abstract art of combination tangible, giving your hands and your eyes a role in the process of discovery. The answers you seek are often hidden in the spaces between your core concepts, waiting for a random spin of a paper wheel to bring them into the light. What new sentence will your life write today? These ancient engines of symbolic thought have not vanished from our world. They have simply taken on new forms in the stories we love. Modern fiction often serves as a hidden repository for the Ars Combinatoria, keeping its spirit alive in the public imagination. Consider the global phenomenon of Dan Brown's The Da Vinci Code. The entire plot is a frantic race to solve a combinatorial puzzle. The protagonists are not just uncovering a secret, they are constantly rearranging anagrams, interpreting symbolic art, and connecting historical dots. The key they seek is not a single object, but a specific combination of clues, a sacred sentence hidden within a cascade of symbols. This is the art of combination repackaged as a thriller, where the hero's survival depends on his ability to see the hidden connections between seemingly unrelated elements. On a more philosophical level, the magical systems in Brandon Sanderson's Cosmere novels are built directly upon combinatorial principles. In his world of Roshar, for instance, knights radiant swear specific oaths, and each ideal they speak unlocks a new combination of magical abilities, a new synergy between their spirit and their power. The magic is not a vague force, but a logical system with rules, limitations, and emergent properties based on the combination of oaths, spren bonds, and personal intent. This is a fictional reflection of the mystical belief that specific combinations of words, symbols, or actions can produce specific, reproducible effects in reality. Perhaps the most literal and haunting depiction comes from Jorge Luis Borges in his short story The Library of Babel. He describes a universe composed of a vast, perhaps infinite, library. This library contains every possible book that can ever be written, generated from the combination of a limited set of orthographic symbols. It holds every masterpiece, every forgotten history, and also endless volumes of pure gibberish, along with every possible variation in between. Borges's library is the Ars Combinatoria realized in its most absolute and terrifying form, a universe where all knowledge exists alongside all falsehood, and the seeker's quest is to find meaning within an ocean of combinatorial noise. These narratives resonate so deeply because they tap into an ancient human intuition that truth is not a single point, but a pattern waiting to be assembled. They translate the abstract principles of sacred combination into the relatable language of mystery, magic, and existential wonder, ensuring that this ancient art continues to whisper to us from the pages of our favorite books and the frames of our most compelling films. But this powerful tool for revelation carries a shadow side, a potential for intellectual and spiritual traps that have ensnared thinkers for centuries. The very act of seeking connections everywhere can pull the mind away from tangible reality. An over-reliance on the Ars Combinatoria can lead to a state of pure abstraction, where the elegant dance of symbols becomes more appealing than the messy, unpredictable world they are meant to represent. The practitioner, lost in their internal labyrinth of rotating wheels and interlocking archetypes, may become detached, seeing people and events not as they are, but merely as instances of a symbolic pattern. This is the danger of mistaking the map for the territory, where the combinatorial model becomes a substitute for lived experience. The art's greatest strength, its ability to find hidden links, is also the source of its most significant pitfall, a cognitive bias known as apophenia. This is the tendency to perceive meaningful patterns or connections in random or meaningless data. When you are trained to see the universe as a web of intentional correspondences, it becomes dangerously easy to find profound significance in mere coincidence. A chance number sequence, a bird's flight path, a random word overheard in a crowd, all can be forcibly woven into a personal narrative, not because they are objectively connected, but because the combinatorial mind is primed to connect them. This is how conspiracy theories are born, not from a lack of intelligence, but from an unchecked application of the very same symbolic logic that once guided mystics. History provides sobering examples of this art being used to construct rigid, dogmatic systems rather than fostering free exploration. The same universal language that Ramon Llull hoped would bring faiths together could, in less generous hands, become a cage. Certain strands of Kabbalah and Hermeticism ossified into complex, hierarchical maps of the cosmos that one was meant to accept and memorize, not question or experiment with. The living, breathing art of combination can sometimes freeze into a fixed symbolic bureaucracy, a pre-made answer to every question that stifles genuine, personal spiritual insight. The goal shifts from inner transformation to the rote recitation of established correspondences. This is why a balanced approach is not just advisable, but essential. The Ars Combinatoria is a magnificent engine for generating possibilities, but it is not a substitute for critical judgment, empirical observation, or heartfelt intuition. It should open doors of perception, not build walls of dogma. The true practitioner learns to hold this tension, to dance between the symbolic and the real, using the art's generative power while remaining grounded in the wisdom of direct experience. The ancient wheels of symbolic combination have been stripped of their sacred dogma and handed back to us as a tool of pure will. Chaos magic, a postmodern spiritual practice, takes the core engine of the Ars Combinatoria and runs it on a new operating system, one where belief is a tool and results are the only doctrine. Here, the elaborate correspondences of Agrippa and the complex memory palaces of Bruno are set aside in favor of a brutally efficient, personalized technology of manifestation. The central artifact of this modern art is the sigil, a perfect crystallization of combinatorial principles for the individual. The process begins not with universal truths, but with a simple, personal statement of intent. A desire is framed in the present tense, such as, "I find a fulfilling new job." The chaos magician then takes this sentence and begins a combinatorial distillation. They remove all repeating letters, breaking the linguistic statement down to its fundamental non-redundant components. From the remaining letters, they begin to combine and abstract, merging shapes, overlapping lines, and simplifying forms. The goal is to create a unique, visually striking symbol, a sigil, that no longer looks like the original words. This new glyph is a combinatorial product, a personalized rune born from the fusion of your specific desire's atomic letters. This act of creation is a direct echo of the Kabbalist's Tzerov, the permutation of letters to generate new spiritual force, but it is turned inward. The sigil is not meant to be understood by the conscious mind. Its power lies in its obscurity. By charging the symbol with focused emotional energy and then forgetting its original meaning, you are implanting a combinatorial seed directly into the fertile ground of the subconscious. You are programming your own inner universe using a symbol you engineered yourself. This is the Ars Combinatoria made pragmatic and postmodern, a spiritual technology that values personal results over traditional lineage, using the ancient art of combination to write new commands into the operating system of reality itself. Their voices are not in dusty manuscripts, but in studios and digital spaces, actively weaving the old art into new forms. I recently spoke with a digital artist who uses generative algorithms as her combinatorial canvas. She described a project where she fed the system images of Byzantine icons and recordings of forest sounds. The AI, acting as her modern Volvel, began producing haunting landscapes where trees had faces of saints and roots pulsed with sacred geometry. She said the breakthrough came not from directing the machine, but from observing the unexpected combinations it generated, allowing these digital synchronicities to guide her own creative process. For her, the algorithm is a collaborative spirit, a partner in the ancient dance of symbolic fusion. Then there is a tarot reader who is moved beyond traditional spreads. He creates what he calls combinatorial narratives for his clients. Instead of a single Celtic cross, He might pull a card from the Rider-Waite deck, another from the Thoth deck, and a third from a completely independent oracle set, forcing a conversation between different symbolic languages. He shared a story of a client stuck in a career dilemma. The cards drawn were the Emperor from one deck, representing structure and authority, and the Two of Pentacles from another, showing a figure juggling responsibilities. But the third card, from an abstract art oracle, was simply a single, bold downward arrow. The combination was jarring. It did not suggest a balanced juggling act, but a necessary release, a deliberate dropping of one of those pentacles to embrace the Emperor's focused authority. This combinatorial clash provided the jolt of insight the client needed to make a difficult but liberating decision. Finally, a chaos magician explained how he builds rituals from scavenged parts. He might combine a Catholic prayer with a gesture from Tai Chi, and a symbol from a corporate logo, charging this new combinatorial entity with a specific intent. His most potent sigil, he told me, was created by merging the astrological symbol for Jupiter with the barcode from a package that contained a long-awaited opportunity. By fusing the concept of expansion with the tangible artifact of his desire, he created a personalized key that he believes unlocked a path forward. These practitioners are not recreating the past. They are using the timeless engine of combination to write new spells for a new world, proving that the Ars Combinatoria is far from a relic. It is a living, breathing art of modern magic. This single, enduring impulse connects the Kabbalist whispering sacred permutations with the programmer debugging a neural network. Across centuries and cultures, the Ars Combinatoria reveals itself not as one forgotten technique, but as a fundamental pattern of the human mind, a timeless meta-tool for seeking order in the chaos of existence. It is the perennial quest to find a unified field of knowledge, to discover that beneath the staggering diversity of life, from a spiraling galaxy to a falling leaf, there exists a coherent, hidden architecture built from a surprisingly small set of rules. We see this in the mystic who believes that combining 22 sacred letters can unlock the mind of God, and in the scientist who believes that combining 92 natural elements can explain the composition of every star. The tools change, from spinning paper volvels to silicon chips, but the underlying drive remains constant, the conviction that by breaking reality down to its core components and understanding the rules of their combination, we can reassemble a picture of the whole. This is why the art feels so familiar when we finally encounter it. It resonates with a deep, intuitive part of us that already knows how to solve a problem by breaking it into smaller pieces, or to gain a new insight by connecting two seemingly unrelated ideas. The Ars Combinatoria is simply the formalization of this innate human ability, elevating it from an occasional spark of genius to a disciplined method of discovery. It is the bridge between the logical and the mystical, the artistic and the scientific, proving that the desire to map the hidden connections of the cosmos is one of the most powerful and persistent forces in our history. We are and have always been combinatorial beings, using the symbols at our disposal to reassemble a universe we sense is profoundly, beautifully, and mysteriously one. From paper wheels to planetary networks, the journey of the Ars Combinatoria is a map of human thought itself. We watched it evolve from Ramon Llull's theological engine into a mystical key for Renaissance magi, and then saw its soul extracted by Leibniz to forge the cold logic of computation. It was the hidden current in alchemy's fires and the secret grammar of secret societies, a river of symbolic thought flowing underground for centuries, only to resurface as the binary heart of our digital age. This is not a story of separate events, but a single, unfolding revelation about how we seek to understand the world. We break it down into pieces, and then we reassemble them, searching for the pattern that connects the stars to the soul. You have been walking this path all along. Every time you solve a problem by breaking it into smaller steps, every time you have a sudden insight by connecting two unrelated memories, you are practicing the art of combination. You are the inheritor of this ancient tradition. Your mind is the final volvel, your experiences are the core symbols, and your life is the ultimate combinatorial experiment. You are not just learning about this art, You are being invited to practice it consciously. What new meaning, what new magic could you create by deliberately combining the ideas, the relationships, and the passions that are unique to your world? The tools are already in your hands. We would love to hear what combinatorial discoveries you make. Share a story of a surprising connection in the comments below. And if you are ready to explore more hidden knowledge, subscribe to continue the journey together.